Hello and welcome to the questions and answers session of the panel, which we named Train to Tokyo Delayed. We got lots of views, 700, more than 700, which is more than what we would normally have had in the room of the We Play conference. So far, a great success. I'm joined again by Sanita Puspure, Rhys McClenaghan and Ellen Keane, and we have lots of very insightful questions. But first of all, Ellen, let's go down to you. In a movie of your life, who would play you?
I don't know. See, I would be so stubborn and have to try find a disabled actress with one arm or something. Like I'd have to purposely try find someone with one arm and make them play me.
You would want a mirror image. Rhys, would a movie star that plays you have to be able to do the pommel horse properly?
I mean, I don't know of any movie stars that are at that level on the pommel horse yet, but if one comes up, I'll fire Matt Damon a text here and see if he can do the pommel horse. Sure.
Well, he's definitely available anyway. He's stuck out in Dalkey with nothing else to do. You might as well go train him. What about you, Sanita? Just a fun question to get us going.
I don't know. I absolutely love Jennifer Aniston, so if she could do me, that'd be great. But
the perfect fit. It's a perfect fit in my book. I think that's brilliant.
I don't know if she'd be willing to put herself through the paces that we train at. So, but sure, I can edit that. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say now she's one of those people. She's very good with her diet. She's always been really good with her diet. But I'd say she wouldn't be able to train as hard as you guys train.
she looks amazing. I mean,
yeah,
I'd say that.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to just go ask her. I hope you're all getting on very well. This is a question that probably it has more context now because we're in a pandemic. But and I'll ask this of all of you before we get into the nitty gritty. But if there was one thing that you could magically change about your life right now today, what would it be?
For me, it would be being able to travel more. I feel like that's something that I need constantly in my life. So being able not to travel at the minute and not hop on a plane whenever I want to, it's a struggle.
For me, as much as I miss swimming, I'm loving having dry hair. So it would be to magically have dry hair all the time, even when I'm training.
Never would have thought of that. That's brilliant. Sanita?
Go back in time, like for an hour or two, and remember how it was when kids were smaller. I really miss when they were babies. So just kind of get little like memories and stuff, and then come back to reality again. Yeah.
I think I'd go back in time by about 4 months and just appreciate what I had when I had my freedom.
Great as well. Yeah, and maybe stop all this happening, but sure, everybody would think you're crazy saying that there's going to be a pandemic, you know.
Yeah, I know.
No one won't believe you.
Okay, we have a question here from Neve, and Neve says, guys, I really enjoyed that. Thank you. You're all very focused on what you can control. Have you felt any increase in a sense of concern or wondering about what your competition in other countries are doing during the crisis, so your competitors that you're going to be up against probably next year? And if so, what is your approach to managing those kind of thoughts?
I guess you kind of need to not focus too much on what other people are doing. As long as you can control your situation that you're in and work as hard as you can in your circumstances, there's not much else you can change about that. Of course, it's good to look at other people for maybe inspiration and to give yourself a little bit of a push. Maybe if they're posting videos of them working really hard, that can make you work a little bit harder. But at the same time, there's no point on dwelling on what other people can do, or if they're maybe in a better situation than you, because you can't change that certain situation that you're in.
I agree with Rhys there. I kind of feel like people post on social media the things that they're doing right, and you don't see the things that they're doing wrong or the things that they could be doing better. So although your competitors might be able to train in a pool, or they might be able to train in different situations, they might be really bad at their nutrition, they might be really bad at recovering, and you just have to focus on the things that you can do.
What about you, Sanita?
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, I'm trying not to believe everything I see on Instagram, because I mean, I can throw in a few posts like with hard sessions and send a message out, oh yes, I'm flat out, like doing really hard pieces every day, but the real situation is that, yeah, some days I am, sometimes I'm not. So I think you just have to focus on yourself at this time and make sure that you come out of this in good shape, mental and physical, so we can all tackle the hard training when the time's right, you know.
Yeah, Neve's question is really good. Like, it makes me think that, because she's right, sports people always do talk about controlling the controllables, and it makes a lot of sense, obviously, because it's the only thing you can control. But I wonder, are sports elite athletes just better at blocking out the anxiety that is caused by the uncontrollables, because the rest of us are crap at it?
I think also it's because you're put in them pressured situations, and you know, all athletes lose at some point in their career, and I think them losses from athletes especially are just engraved into your brain. So, you know, and there's always a reason for them losses as well, I've come to find. So, you know, it's always something that I could have controlled. So if I can't control something that's uncontrollable now, then there's no point in worrying about it in the future, kind of thing.
What were you going to say, Ellen?
I can't even remember.
Well, I'm basically wondering, are elite athletes just better prepared? Because you guys always seem to be able to box off all that emotion and be able to focus on what you can control and not let the demons in. And I just think the rest of us could learn a lot from elite athletes.
Yeah, I don't even think we're doing it like we're actively thinking about doing it. I think it's just we're programmed that way, and it's through repetition and discipline our whole careers that we've been trained to think this way. So literally, as soon as this whole thing happened, it was for me instantly as what can I do? And I think the more that you think that and the more you try and think that way, the easier it is.
Sanita, we have a question here for you specifically. And you mentioned your kids earlier and going back in time and missing when they were small. But one of our viewers wants to know, given that you've accomplished so much, how have you managed it with motherhood? So how have you managed to juggle everything? And would you have any advice for the older athletes or the athletes that have families?
Obviously, I wouldn't be able to do it on my own if I wouldn't have a support of my husband. He's been 100% behind me since the day one, and yeah, there's been times when it's kind of really hard to juggle, so you have to either sacrifice a session here or there, or make priorities. Let's say, what can we prioritize this week or next week? And obviously, around the racing and competition, rowing kind of takes the priority then, so everything gets adjusted to that. But I think a lot of organization kind of making sure that either one of us can make the school teacher, a parent teacher meeting, or the other one, so that we don't just abandon the kids completely. You know, it was harder when they were younger. Now it's a little bit easier because obviously they can make their food now, and they can make me food if I want to, and which they actually do quite a lot these days. And yeah, it's been tricky at times, but I think just being organized and patient as well, and that helps. And obviously, support of my husband has been incredible all these years.
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody without a support team at home would be able to do anything, regardless of whether they're a mother or anything else. Do you think, you say that it was more difficult when they were younger, and yeah, like smaller kids are more demanding for your attention and your time. Do you think that has played into your form in the last number of years? That your kids maybe are more independent. Does that mean that you have been able to really peak?
It's hard to tell if I would have been able to train as much as now when they were smaller. Probably not, but who knows? If we were thrown a challenge, we probably would take it on and at least try it. With the amount of hours we're training now, and if they were like smaller babies, yes, it would be more difficult. But I suppose the program came in at the right time when they're quite independent, and I can afford to be away from home for longer and take more time rowing and everything.
Rhys, you're still very young, and your career is stretching out ahead of you, planning to go to the Olympics for the first time. Is there something, as you look out on this road, and even the amount of sport that you have under your belt already, is there anything that stands out to you that you've learned as an athlete, like some sort of an inner strength or a skill whether it's confidence or problem solving or, you know, coping with anxiety. But is there something, a nugget that you've taken away even so far earlier in your career that sport has given you outside of athleticism?
I mean, pretty much everything. Honestly, like, that's one of the main reasons I recommend doing sport for young people, is to learn all of them life skills. You know, like discipline, as Ellen said earlier on, respect, just all of them life skills that you can take past that sport. Is learned in your earlier years, especially. But it's also taken, you know, up until the elite level, which I'm at now. And I'm still learning. I'm constantly learning, and I will be until the day I die, pretty much. So yeah, I would actually say that I've learned everything in sports, and it's going to continue when I continue my career.
Would you be the same, Ellen? Are you a stronger person because of your sport?
Definitely, and I think the biggest thing that sport has given me is confidence. I think people don't realize how much confidence you can gain from sport, and even like having the confidence to just talk. Like even when I went to college and standing up and doing a presentation, like that was no bother to me, because I've had the opportunity to talk so much about my sport and the opportunities that sport has given me. So even just staying in sport, it's going to give you confidence in different areas of your life that you didn't even realize.
But would you be the same, Sanita? You've obviously had to learn a lot of organisation skills as well.
Yes. Yeah, I suppose the biggest thing I've taken from sport is the discipline and understanding that things don't come fast and easy. You always have to work harder for them. So that would be probably what I gained from training for so many years. And confidence, yeah. Like obviously as an athlete, I feel more comfortable in a boat, like not talking and just doing the job, you know. But it is good to learn to present yourself, and still learning. So it's not something that comes very easily, but yeah, definitely probably more confident. And the most surprising thing is that people actually are interested to listen to your stories, and that always kind of surprises me. Like, why? It's just my life, you know, why would that be interesting to someone? But I suppose there's something they can take away from it.
I do apologise for ever nagging you for interviews over the years when you didn't want to do them.
I know, I don't mind.
What advice would you give to your younger self then, Sanita? Say, like, if you look back like 10 years ago, or you know, or even longer, what kind of advice would you give your younger self setting out on the career that you've had in sport?
Don't underestimate myself. I think there's been quite a few years when I didn't quite believe that I can actually achieve the very top of the sport, and that probably the lack of that self-belief maybe held me back when I was a junior. Yeah, so never know whether I did or not. But I think if I had a small portion, small self-belief, a little bit more of it, then that'd be great.
Both Ellen and Rhys are nodding. Does that mean that you're both taking that advice?
Yeah, for sure.
I agree with it. Yeah.
100%.
Being
like not believing in yourself is such it's a negative thing, not having self-belief. And when you do start to believe in yourself and believe that you can achieve that vision or goal that you have in your head, that's when everything starts to come together, and you start to actually push harder and work harder for that goal as well.
Do you look back in the same way, Ellen? Like, I mean, when I think about your first Olympics, you were only your first Paralympics, you were only 13. So, you know, elite, you weren't an elite athlete yet in terms of mindset and all of the supports that, you know, the Institute gives, for example. So when you look back and think back to the start of your swimming career, the advice that you would give your younger self was probably a little bit different, is it?
Yeah, it would be to always work hard. I think talent can get you so far, but if you don't work hard, then hard work beats talent when talent won't work hard. And that's probably a lesson that I learned the hard way. But now I'm definitely, post London 2012 was definitely when I got my head down and started working hard, and that's when I started to really see the results.
What is your favourite post-training session meal? I love this question. Sanita, you go first.
Oh, cheers. Depends what kind of session. If it's been a really hard session, then I can look at food for another few hours. Then I suppose anything that's easy to digest. After hard session, when the tummy settles, I love to treat myself with a nice burger. Yeah, burger and sweet potato chips.
Ellen, what about you? I know you love your food.
I do love my food and I love cooking food, but after a hard session, there's nothing better for me than walking out of the NAC while calling Wagamama's in Blanchardstown and ordering a chicken cashew curry for collection.
Love it. That's genius. What about you, Rhys?
I love a Nando's after training. I could eat Nando's every single day of my life if I had the choice, and I'm missing it right now.
That's not something you say to your younger self, right? Every single day.
I guess so.
Okay, I have another question from one of our viewers. What would you advise to the coaches out there on how to build a strong relationship with their athletes? So what would you say are the most important components of that really unique relationship between an athlete and a coach? And actually, Rhys, I might start with you because I know you're really close with Luke Carson, your coach.
Yeah, the main thing in training is for me to trust what Luke is saying. You know, if I don't trust his word and trust the program that he sets me, then it's not going to go to plan. You know, he's the guy outside of my brain and outside of my body that is controlling what I do essentially. And it's everything that he does is going to benefit my training and my competitions. So if I don't trust what he says completely, then, you know, of course I do. Sometimes I dispute him. Sometimes I would say I disagree with that, and then we would converse about it. And that's another thing as well. Communication is a big thing. You know, if I do have a disagreement, then we'll talk about it and not just, you know, argue or whatever. We would have that kind of relationship.
Okay. What about you, Ellen?
I think the most important thing would be, especially if like most swim coaches have a big group of swimmers, is to try and build a relationship with each individual swimmer. So what my coach Dave does every day when he comes in, before we start the session, he'll like gather us all around and be like, hey, how's it going? And might like ask certain individuals different things just to see how everyone's mood is. And I think the more you do that, the more you'll get to know your swimmers, and if they're acting a little bit off, you might want to like pull them aside and just check in, see what's going on. And when you do that with an athlete, especially younger athletes, they start to trust you a lot more, so they'll open up a lot more. And if you like start to build a relationship like that, you're able to confide in each other and definitely get the most out of your training.
It sounds like trust and communication go hand in hand. Would that be right, Sanita? Would you go along with that?
Yeah, trust would be the first one that I would say, and communication obviously as well. Yeah. Also, I think I wouldn't. Maybe I'm just speaking from my own experience when I was junior and stuff, but it's good not to have your coach as your best friend as well. Like you need to trust them, but there needs to be a kind of a borderline, you know, the boundaries almost. The coach still needs to have like good authority over what they're doing, like not in the bad way, but kind of if he tells you to do this, you need to trust him and actually do it, not because you're afraid of your coach, but because you respect your coach as well. I really like my coach, but we were never like friendly. But up to this day, which was like 25 years ago when she started coaching me, we still keep in touch, and now we're good friends. So it kind of carried over. Yeah.
Okay. Ellen, I've asked you about this before, but we got this question in, and I'm not surprised, but I'm going to ask all of you this as well, so just start thinking about it. Post-athletic career, what would you like to do for work?
I'd love your job. I'd love to go into media, mostly because the reason I got so insecure growing up was because there was no one like me to compare myself to. There's not a lot of people with disabilities in the media, so I feel, not just because I enjoy being in the media and I do stuff with Sky Sports as well, but because I kind of feel like there's a responsibility there that if you have that passion and you have that drive to go for it, because you don't know whose life you're going to impact by being in the media.
It's the visibility thing, isn't it? You know, it's for younger
Yeah,
athletes. I
definitely.
saw you post about a young girl that you met in Australia on the beach, and that she came out to you because you looked like her, and it meant so much to her. And that is the visibility thing again, you know, that she had seen somebody who was successful and that looked the exact same as her. So that's kind of where you're going with it, is it? You know, that younger people would see you, and it's about the visibility.
Yeah, definitely. And it's not just about younger people as well. It's for the younger person seeing someone like them and being comfortable with that and seeing that it's normal. But it's also for adults who also haven't seen someone with a disability like that before and feeling more comfortable around it. So it's trying to break the stigma of people with disabilities.
Okay, that's a really good point, because very often there's more stigma attached to older people who have grown up with certain, you know,
it's just not normal.
They don't even realize it, whereas younger minds are more open, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
What about you, Rhys? What would you like to do in your career post gymnastics, which I know is absolutely ages away?
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. I mean, I would love to go into doing coaching gymnastics, of course, just because I've got such good knowledge on it and I've got the passion for gymnastics. But as you say, it's so far away. Like, I don't even have anything in my head, but I'll figure it out closer to the time.
Yeah, I'm so glad you don't know, because you know what? You just need to focus on what you're doing now, because you're doing it so well. Don't look too far into the future. It's way too dangerous. You wouldn't want to tempt fate and not be able to compete anytime in the next 10 years. What about you, Sanita?
Yeah, I think rowing is kind of a passion of my life, so I'd like to stay close to it. But watching how hard our coaches are working and they get no weekends, nothing, like no family time, I'm kind of maybe not. But I think staying kind of close to sport would be what I would want to do. Definitely not media, but I think Ellen's going to do great. Like, she's totally made for it.
You take my job
Yeah.
next year. Yeah. After the Paralympics, I'm going to retire, and Ellen is going to take my job.
Surely there's space for both of you. Yeah, something with the sport, definitely, because it kind of is who I am, and would be hard to kind of strip that off and just sit in the office for 8 hours. I'd probably go insane.
You would, especially if you've been outside a lot, you would go absolutely bonkers. I think the pandemic has we've learned a lot from the pandemic in that regard. Okay, so how do you find a balance between training, that's sporting life, and then the family life, and then there's the financial as well? And I know, like, you're all funded and everything, but there would have been a time where you would have had to sacrifice one thing over another when it comes to money. So if there are athletes out there who are wondering how to find that balance, would you have any advice, any of you of it all, if you think of anything?
I think you should look at the community that you're in. Clontarf were so good to me growing up. There's a lot of businesses out there who have money to spend on sponsorship stuff, and people are so keen to look after their own. So if you can find someone local, and you have a competition coming up that you can't fund or something like that, maybe go to your local people in your community who might be willing to help.
Okay. What about school balance, Rhys? Did you ever have that struggle between studies and your athletic training?
Yeah, for sure. Especially with schoolwork, I struggled a bit with that. Like, I had teachers telling me that I need to take some time off gymnastics to focus more on schoolwork to get my grades up. That just was not happening. That would have put my grades down even worse, to be honest. But it was a struggle, because I was training 4 hours in the evening every day. You know, traveling straight from school, eating my lunch and changing my clothes in the back of a car, going to training. So it was a struggle. But I wouldn't have changed it for the world, to be honest, because this is my vision. I'm sitting here right now telling you that I'm a professional gymnast. I'm going to the Olympic Games. So to me, that's a plan that I pursued, and it's worked out. Yeah,
well, you're definitely winning. Yeah, you're winning at life. There's no doubt about it. Sanita, can I ask you in the last 4 years, so from the Rio Olympics to now, what have you done differently to improve your performance? Because your performances have improved. What have you done differently?
Just had in training program, so it wasn't anything spectacular, and eating more, so I can tolerate a harder training program. That was the biggest change that we did, and I did change a little bit the way I thought about competition and racing. I had a few conversations with former athletes from Rowing Ireland and kind of flicked the switch just to kind of, instead of putting so much pressure on the performance, just put pressure in training and then enjoy racing, you know. So, and that made a massive difference.
So your mindset changed, your mindset
Towards
towards
not by much, yeah, not by much, because obviously I'm still the same person and my values are still the same. It's just the way I started looking at the racing was slightly different. Yeah.
Okay. Have you done anything differently since Rio, Ellen?
Yeah, I have been doing a lot more mindfulness stuff, looking after my mental health. I've been doing yoga. I think I put a lot of pressure on myself, and it's easy to talk negative to yourself. But it's you can train yourself to think differently, and I think that's one thing that I've definitely tried to make a difference in the past 4 years.
Okay. Rhys, I think we asked you this already, but we did get a question in about who your sporting idol was growing up.
So there's so many, especially in gymnastics. And I've, so one of them would be Kohei Uchimura. He's the Japanese gymnast. He's 6-time world champion consecutively, 2-time Olympic champion. He's just the king of gymnastics, pretty much. And I actually, at the start of this year, I had the pleasure of training with him for the first time. So that was just like mind-blowing experience, where it was just, and it was interesting because I went to their national training center for a training camp, and it was just him in the gym, and it made me think, because I'm the only one training in my national training center, so it was quite cool to see that happening with the greatest gymnast of all time. And then just, getting to meet him, getting to see him train, that was just something.
That's incredible. Crazy. Did you ask him much, or did you?
He doesn't speak very good English, but I said one of my favorite skills for me to watch, and the skill that would kind of open my eyes to him as an amazing gymnast, is on the horizontal bar. He does a double back somersault over the bar and catches back on. But he does it in such a beautiful way, and it just everybody knows that he does it the best. And I was training it when I was in Japan, and his coach spoke very good English. He came over and said, "Oh, Kohei said to do this and do that," and he was giving me tips.
Wow!
And it was one of the real moments where I was like, "Okay, Kohei Uchimura is coaching me right now. That's crazy."
That's incredible.
I was like 8 years old, watching him grow up, watching him dominate in the world of gymnastics, and that was a crazy moment in my life.
Wow, that's amazing. And that was this year?
Yeah, it was in January.
I have really bad news for you. You mightn't ever top that.
I know.
Apart from a medal in Tokyo, obviously.
Yeah. I said to him, we'll be standing, because I got a photo with him, and I said, next time we get a photo, we'll both have gold medals.
Oh, amazing. Great line. Great. It's true too. It's true. What about you, Sanita? Do you remember who your major sporting idols were? They rowers, or who stood out for you when you were younger?
Actually, nobody did. I was all over the place until I started rowing. Not in a bad way. I was all over the place with many sports, so I was kind of trying everything that I could try, and I watched Olympics all the time when I could, but I never actually had any athletes kind of standing out until I started rowing. And then, because I didn't know much about rowing when I started it, it was the girl that I went to boarding school together. She was in a different club, but we kind of went to the same boarding school, and she was really good, and she always worked really hard, and she was what I wanted to become. And then there was a time when I got to race in the same boat with her. We won the university championships one year, and that was great. Yeah, I had huge respect for her, and unfortunately she never got to go to Olympics, but she was the one that I was looking up to.
Okay. Ellen, I don't know, I mean, I'm sure you're aware that you are somebody that people look up to now, that's just the circle of life. I have a 4-year-old in a paddling pool outside the other day who was shouting, I'm Ellen Keane, I'm Ellen Keane. We're trying to teach her how to swim.
I'm so jealous.
That was the name that she said. So like, does that sit easily with you? Do you like being a role model? Are you comfortable with that title?
I think it's just a bit mad, especially like because Paralympics was something that not a lot of people knew about for so long. But I remember I was at a competition, the only competition that I was at this year, and I was in the swim down pool, and there was like a group of boys at the other end, and I think they were from Tala, and they're all just like staring at me, and then I like turned and looked at them, and then they started waving at me, so I waved back, and they all started like laughing and ran away, and I was like, that's mad, like that wouldn't have happened, I don't know, a few years ago. But it's nice. It's something that I don't take lightly, and I try and do the right thing all the time. So I try and be a good role.
Well, you are, and I was just going to say, like, it's such an important thing as well. You know, you kind of have to take it and run, because it's very, very important, because it means that, you know, that younger athletes have somebody to look up to, the way that Rhys was looking up to his idol as well when he was growing up. Thank you so much. I have one final question, and it is for Mr. Rhys McClenaghan. How is the McClenaghan coming on?
It's getting there. I'm still, it's in the works for sure. It's a difficult skill, I can tell you that much. And the difficult thing about making up a new skill altogether, there's no tutorials or preparations or YouTube videos of it, because it's literally the first time that it's ever been done. So it's a lot of figuring it out. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. I'm just trying to put the pieces together now.
I am fascinated. I can't wait to see what you come up with. And can I ask you, for the exclusive, when it's finally finished, can I come out and film it?
Yeah, but not before I submit it and get it done and dusted there.
Oh yeah, no, you have to submit it, get it done and dusted, and then it's going on the RTE News before anywhere else, okay?
Okay.
Guys, thank you so much. That concludes our Q&A session. Really appreciate your time. The train to Tokyo is delayed, but it is still full of gas, full of positivity, and we wish you all the best at the Tokyo Games whenever they happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.